So as of yesterday, it's pretty much that everything that we need to put in place to ensure that we have a very successful event today has been done. I don't know about what the morning looks like whilst we're here, though. Sweetie.
Well, I think it was a long day and a long night. We had the concluding remarks from both leaders of Parliament. Of course, Afenyo Makin was there. Dr. Kesel Atoforsen was also there. And I want to start from Dr. Asasante because I want a more, I mean, we'll get incisive as the conversations go along, but I want a more general assessment or overview of how you saw the proceedings yesterday from the concluding remarks from both leaders, Alban Bagbin, dissolving Parliament, being sworn in by the Chief Justice, and everything that happened leading up to this morning. What do you make of it?
I think yesterday was a great day. We saw Parliament at its best. The ugly spectacle we saw in the last beginning of the last Parliament was conspicuously missing, and we thank God for that. And we know the reason. The reason being that, part of the reason being that we have almost absolute majority on the part of the NDC. So there was no tussle, and everything went smoothly as planned. I was very much fortified by the speech of the Speaker, where he pointed out the fact that, or reminded new members of Parliament that, hey, look here, you are in to serve, and you should think about serving the society. For me, that was most refreshing. Refreshing in the sense that sometimes when we put people into authority, it gets into their brain and it takes them off course. So that reminder was very, very necessary. I also enjoy, the antics of the minority leader as part of the Philip, in such a program. So it was a good one. And above all, I like the way the leadership conducted themselves, the way they elected the leaders, and support from both sides were encouraging. And it gives me hope that consensus is going to be the key. Parliament has always been working based on consensus and dialogue. Monologue has never been part of their system. They can disagree. They can shout on top of roof. But I can tell you without fear of contradiction that when you talk about members of Parliament, they think about the state and they put their foot down and make sure that they get the work done. So it's my hope and prayer that what we saw yesterday will not end there, and that we are going to see more of that. But of course, we expect that in some circumstances, you can see people, flexing muscles and all that. It's part of the business of Parliament. My hope also is that the NDC majority, which is almost absolute majority, they will use it and use it wisely, so as not to incur the wrath of their colleagues in order to do the work and do it perfectly. Because Parliament work, it takes two to tango. You need other members of Parliament which are on the opposite side of the political divide to be able to support the majority. And I hope this one will work for us. My also joy is that you have a speaker who has seen it all. From 1993, he has been in Parliament as an MP, as a minority leader, as a majority leader, at a point in time, a minister for health, and then also a deputy speaker, a speaker, and a speaker. And I know that he will put his foot down when the need arises, and then shepherd Parliament to the promised land.
All right. Let's bring in Alhaji Yunus of Husseini here. Alhaji, you've been in that house before. First off, the now minority leader, before yesterday was majority leader, sought to do something that many wonder what exactly he was doing. Because this is a leader that had a lot of issues with the speaker. But yesterday, he sort of rained a lot of praises on him and even tried to pitch him against the NDC caucus, now majority, in the House. What exactly was he trying to do? You've been in there before.
Well, you can understand that this parliament is different from all other parliaments that have been constituted under the Fourth Republic. The nearest is the second parliament that has about 133 members of parliament for the NDC and about 67 for the MPP. And so that was not two-thirds majority, but this parliament has two-thirds majority. Now, secondly, Afenyo Markin in the 8th parliament did not come out very well. I mean, he was seen to be boisterous. He was seen to be too legalist and prone to run into court. That did not sit well with the speaker. He's now being given the same speaker. So it's better to start courting favors from the speaker than antagonizing him. So you could see that that was parliamentary antics. I mean, trying to look good before the speaker and paint the picture that this is going to be a different Afenyo Markin, so that he can get his views, his side's views across. But he did something that clearly I don't think that he ought to have done it, because unless, of course, he intended that to stamp his foot in Parliament and let people ask who that person is. Okay. Because the standing orders or the 8th Rule 4 clearly says that when you are supporting a motion, you should not subject the motion to debate or remarks. Just support the motion for the election of a speaker, and that is it. After that, you can have opportunity within the course of the sitting of Parliament to make remarks. But in supporting the motion, you should go straight away. And then you could see that he was filibustering. I mean, trying to waste time and unnecessarily obstruct the process that was going on. But all in all, I agree with Doctor that I could see traces and flashes of consensus.
Okay.
Okay.
Of what we will see in the 9th Parliament?
In the 9th Parliament.
Okay.
In the way the Speaker was elected. Before the Speaker was elected, we had discordant voices from the minority that he should not be put there. I mean, he did not serve their interests. A lot of people said so. One even ventured to say that if he was given the opportunity, he will nominate either Haruna Idrisu or Muntaka. I mean, but it's a welcome surprise to see the minority leader supporting the motion to elect Bagbuna as Speaker. Then it came to the first Deputy Speaker. Then there was unanimity that Ahiafo should go. And the MPP kept the second Deputy Speaker's nomination close to their chest until they reconvened in Parliament. And they nominated Apiaje also.
Andrew Sesiama.
No, not Apiaje. The whip, Arnaud Dompre, then nominated Asiama. Yeah. And then it was seconded by. So clearly, they have started well on consensus, to build consensus. And it's very important for parliamentary work. Then you find that the Bagbin himself has been extremely lucky. Extremely. Came to Parliament in 1992, did 7 terms in Parliament, rose to become the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and then Speaker of Parliament. And he is the only the second speaker in the second person in the history of the Fourth Republic to have 2 terms. Yes. The first person was D.F. Annan, then him. So he has been extremely lucky. And so he should take opportunity to also leave his mark on parliamentary practice. I mean, he's a seasoned member of Parliament, so he knows the nuances of Parliament. Now, he also knows that in the Parliament constituted by an overwhelming majority of the ruling government side and a less than a third minority, you need to give the minority a voice in debates. You need to give them recognition in formulation of government policy. You need their input in legislation so that you can enrich the discussions in Parliament. It's going to be a difficult task because you saw what the firm of God wanted to do. When the Afenyo Markin was delaying, he It truncated. It sought to truncate the process, and then said, "Okay, I have supported the nomination of Bagbin." Bagbin should watch that carefully because you need patience and to give the minority a voice.
Okay.
In fact, the time-tested dictum is that the minority should have their say and the majority should have their way.
Even though this is a minority's minority, as they say?
They must have their way.
Okay.
That is the beauty of democracy. Whatever they say will only enrich discussions in Parliament. And so I think that we should
I'm just curious to know if he was entirely wrong. And Dr. Kwame Asante, in his defense, he said, well, all that the commentary was coming before, seconding. So was he wrong?
Did you listen to him? He said, I rise to second the motion. Before I second them. First of all, he said,
so that's wrong. So is that wrong?
Yeah, it's very wrong.
Because he had started by saying, I rise to second.
So that was where the conversation
So he knew that you can't subject the seconding a motion for the election of the speaker to a debate. So he proceeded well. I rise to second the motion for the election of the speaker. But in seconding the motion, I have preliminary.
Right. Okay.
And those comments were debatable.
Okay.
Those remarks are not, were not or have not been envisaged by Order 8.4 of the standing orders. So no breach of the order can justify what he was doing.
Right.
But I understand it was filibustering.
Is it all part of the parliamentary?
That's part of the parliamentary practice, but except that you don't do that in breach of the standing orders.
Okay, quite interesting.
Yeah, Doc, I want to find out the new and the old. How seamless is this blend going to be? Are we going to have enough time, or do they need enough time to be able to fit in? Or it's something that they already have a picture of how things are supposed to go, especially the fact that the president has only four years to do this.
One historian said that before you write history, you are already a product of history. Before going to Parliament, they have learned at least one or two things about parliamentary business. So that has been internalized already. But Parliament also has as an institution, engages in socialization, where they walk people through the rules and regulations governing the work that they do from time to time. So by that, if you apply yourself to the rules of the game, you become equipped and you build capacity to be able to do your work. So I'm not worried about the number of fresh faces in Parliament and all that. Remember, nobody was born in Parliament.
Sure.
We only go there, build capacity, and our parties use us, and then for the benefit of the society. Some go through the ropes and then they become ministers. And my honorable minister is an example here. And then some also develop themselves to the extent that they are used as vice president and president. And we have examples John Mahama is a typical example, Nana Akufo-Addo, and the rest of them. Remember that Parliament has seen very great men who had come and have left their footprint. You can talk about people like J.H. Mensah, J.H. Owusu Acheampong, Kweku, Ba, and the rest of them. They were, giants in Parliament. Today, you don't have them. But because of Parliament as having institutional memory, they always, bequeath this thing with the young ones, and then the old ones who are in there also learn under their feet. So by the time you get to a certain level, you build capacity. I was a reporter in Parliament, and I saw people like J.H. Mensah, Abraham Oseidu. I saw people like, Dua Jaho.
Hackman.
Yeah, Hackman, Wusi Ajiman,
Kumbo.
and all that.
Yeah.
A host of them.
Yeah.
But you saw that there was a conscious effort to train people, mentor them, and they walked through the ropes, and today, you see them as shining example. Somebody like Osechi Mensah, I saw him when he was learning under the ropes of D.H. Mensah, and then Abraham Oseidu and the rest of them. But later we saw him. He became a toast of many. All right. So in the same way, you saw people like Dr. Kwabena J. And the like. They also building, their side up. So I am not worried at all, but new people getting into Parliament is a function of what voters what? Do when they go to the polls. When they realize that they were giving you too much powers, they have a way of reducing the power. We saw the power they gave to NPP when they assumed the reins of power in 2017. Yes, they thought that they could use it and use it effectively, but events took a different turn. We saw different results. So we came to what? The last parliament. We saw what? Hang parliament. That let us see, and see how you can manage it so that that tendency of abusing power can be curtailed and you build consensus. You now listen, all right? They did not listen to that. And you saw the voting, that now let's give more powers because they thought that the concerns that was in the air that there were a lot of, Parliament needed more powers, particularly majority, and they didn't have that. You see today, they've given a lot of powers to what? NDC, and they have to live up to expectation. And I have no doubt in my mind that in theory, if you see those who are in the helm of affairs today, John Mahama has seen it all. As what MP, as a minister, as a vice president, a president, and a president. And he has a whole lot of, if you see his appointment, the few ones we've seen, mixing the old folks with the new one. And the old folks, people with what? Wealth of experience. You see people like Guzitano, you see people like my own in-law, what's the name? Tutubi Kwache and the rest of them. Like then, yes, you are seeing great guys in the system, all right? Bovulo Latte and all that. They are not going to mess around. And I pray that they will be able to do the needful to support the cause of governance in this country and then build a society that we can claim our own, where we can have means of livelihood. After all, the essence of every democracy is to support the basis, what is what? The people, because the people are the basis of every democracy. If the people are in distress, if the people are worried, then democracy will fizzle out. It becomes what? A dying democracy. And that is why people resort to what? Changing the status quo. And they want to go to the old order, which you and I have gone past that stage long time.
Let me bring in Alhaji here. Alhaji, I read that there were some 275 MPs who were sworn in. But we also know there were some, legal challenges with some of them. What then does this mean? That if 275 MPs were sworn in yesterday or today, this dawn?
So I'm not yet certain with the numbers. Some two are reporting that some number of MPs did not take part in the swearing-in process. So I'm not certain with the numbers yet. But if an MP was sworn in whose swearing-in ought not to have happened, it's precisely because the swearing-in process does not operate to frustrate any legal challenge that can be mounted against the MP's election. Because the Constitution says that 21 days or so after gazetting, you can mount a challenge against the election of a member of Parliament. And so they can still pursue the cases against the MPs who have been sworn in. And if they successfully prove that those MPs ought not to have been sworn in and ought not to have been members of Parliament, the court will so pronounce for them. Now, many people are worried about the crop of new entrants into Parliament. Parliament as an institution is a training ground, just like your studio. You become better day by day. I mean, and obviously, if you stay here longer, you become better day by day. And that's why BBC can poach journalists from here. I'm sure before you came here, BBC, some journalists would not have been looked at all. No. But after staying here for some time, they poach you. Because when you are in an institution, it's a great learning curve. If you address yourself to the concerns of the profession and what you are elected to do, definitely you are going to come out better. I mean, just like the doctor said, no one was born a politician. But many people have gone to Parliament and come out as better politicians because they took opportunity to learn in Parliament. So the new guys must learn. But again, I think that we're going to see more of young people getting into Parliament because of the demographics. Yeah. The people don't think that the older ones represent them. The younger ones, the Generation Z,
Gen Z.
it's Gen Z people, they don't think that.
And the millennials.
And the millennials, they don't think that the old ones represent them. They want to represent themselves, and they're going to send their own people. And that's why you see presently there are a little more than 40 and the 40s in Parliament. Okay. So what is not, what is not lending itself to discussions, intellectual discussions, is the number of women in Parliament. Yeah. Because we know that in this country, women are more than men. Yes. But how come that the women have not been able to leverage on that platform to get themselves into Parliament?
Isn't that because of the sort of, in quote, toxic campaigning that we do have in this country? We've discussed this before about how to encourage women into these positions. And sometimes it is drawn down to how the political environment is in Ghana. That does not encourage a lot of women to take part. You've been in Parliament before.
Toxicity of the environment must not operate to prevent women from getting to Parliament. I take the Yaha Santua. Have you read the story of Yaha Santua?
Yeah.
She was a woman. When the men failed, refused, or neglected to fight
She takes up the
That's one in a million.
Yeah, but that's it. But always need one in that million.
Yeah.
You always need that one in the million to inspire others. You understand? And when we say that, look, women must be part. So many years ago, Plato wrote that you cannot keep one half of society away from discussing the affairs of state and hope to develop. What are you doing with their brains? What are you doing with their brains? You understand? So we need to encourage that half to also be, so that we take advantage of their thinking capacities to develop this country.
But talking about encouraging young people and not just women in particular, something happened in Parliament that is stuck with me. Dr. Kesel Atoforson's remarks, he talks about being persecuted, from the outgoing administration persecuted him because of e-levy. And then when Apenyo Makin took the stand to also give his closing remarks, he talks about how we should not discourage young people and make it look like the business of politics is murkier than it actually is. Yes. Would it be disingenuous for us to say that Apenyo Makin is not speaking to the facts, not being truthful about what really happened, and that indeed it is a murky business, politics? Or would that just be discouraging young people, so we shouldn't be, fueling such a narrative?
No. Inherent in politics is that murkiness. Okay, but so you have to take it on board if you are going into politics. Now, read all over the world, democracies, how they operate. I just heard that Justin Trudeau has resigned. Yeah. But he was a fantastic leader. Yeah. So many years ago. But today, no. Is it his doing, or is it the dark conspiracy that has gotten his ratings to fall to that level? And so clearly, what I want to say, and I will say it here, is that, look, women have shown in other countries that they can provide effective leadership. We as a people ought to tap into their thinking capacities to develop this country. The youth have shown that they want to break barriers, the shackles that hold them back. So we rather have to encourage them to get into Parliament. And when they do, probably we'll see the needed changes that we want for ourselves. The Constitution promises us prosperity and equality of opportunities. Why are we not having it? Is it because of the exclusion? Right. An inclusion of women and youth, and in other parliaments, the disabled, will it bring the prosperity and needed equality of opportunity that we want for Ghanaians? And so these are questions that we can ask around the table and see how we improve the representation of people. Action law has been passed. Yes, so but affirmative action is still putting women at 30%. Yeah. At times when he was campaigning, said 30%. 8 or 12 years after the death of Atamils, we were still talking about 30%. Yeah.
And we don't even have the numbers.
We're not even making progress. Yeah. We're not even making progress.
Many people were expecting that even after that action, affirmative action, we'll be able to get the number go up. Unfortunately, the number that was 40 now comes back to 39.
Yeah.
It's 39.
Yeah.
And you'll be asking, what happened? Because at the period when we did this, a lot of women spoke, were very excited about it. We're hoping that it will reflect and what we will see, eventually see in the elections. But unfortunately, Doc, and I don't know.
But the affirmative action bill was really assented to, after
No, but the
after the
conversation
actual-
before that, we all knew where we're headed.
Yeah.
It was an action that every other person spoke about it. So even after that, I mean, prior to that, we could have probably seen some sort of, rise in.
But
honest
you've been there.
Grace, to be honest with you, as a lawyer, our laws are gender neutral.
Okay.
There's no law that you will read that will seek to differentiate between women and men in the provision of opportunities. So what is confronting us is not lack of legislation.
Yeah.
It's cultural holdback. Okay? There are norms, values in our society that appear to hold back women. They used to hold back the youth. We said they should wait for their time. We repeatedly said that. I even said that the future belongs to them. They said they are no longer interested in the future. They're interested in the present.
Yeah.
You understand? And they're standing up and being represented and being counted. That's what I urge women to do.
Oh, so it's the case that women themselves should stand up for their cause.
Of course.
But we mustn't do anything to aid them.
I say that we have done everything to aid them.
Okay.
As a lawyer, I'm speaking legally, we have done everything to aid them.
Everything.
Everything.
I don't think we've done everything.
So even in football, there's discrimination between the wages that women earn and
what the
men.
men, yes.
And they are still fighting it. In Ghana, there's nothing like that. So you are employed at Joy FM, there's no discrimination in your salary.
Yeah.
There's no discrimination. That's what I mean.
Okay.
That legally, we appear to have provided a platform where we are treating the gender as everybody as gender neutral and making opportunities available. But it appears to me that having these great numbers, 51% or so of Ghanaian population consists of women, but they are not leveraging on that. And I'm saying that they should leverage on that.
What should they do? Practically.
What
should they do?
I think that they should get that significant momentum and support themselves.
Okay.
But
should you forgive me? Before I let you go on, let me take you back to my earlier question about the MPs who had issues with their election. Let's say they've been sworn in, what the reporters say. What happens? You say that the case can still continue.
Yeah.
But it means that then they are MPs but still have the case against them in court. We know in the past, some cases have traveled for 4 years before they were concluded. So is that what we're going to say?
No, but the times are different.
Okay.
The Chief Justice is very proactive. There are now timelines. She's even said that cases can be heard on weekends, except Sundays, and on public holidays. Now, any election petition should be disposed of within a certain number of days. Not even by the end of the first year, a certain number of days. So clearly, that's why I have the strong belief that the people ought not to have invoked the jurisdiction of the court to compel the Electoral Commission to do anything. If you feel hard done by the presiding officer in declaring someone else, all you need to do is to marshal the evidence, wait for the gazetting of the results, and go to court and demonstrate in court that this person could not have been the person elected by the people. And the court, if the court is convinced that you are right, the court will overturn the results and declare you winner. So this constitutional crisis in which we are asking whether some people have been sworn in or not would have been abated if we simply had, bided our time for people who have been declared to be sworn in, gazetted, and then we'll go to court.
Okay.
And adding up to that, we saw a very, very significant thing happening with the issue of Akutia and its situation. They decided that they still want to go on and continue with the swearing in, which of course he was ready for all the
he's ready to
face
with
everything that comes with that. Now, what Afenyomakin did on his behalf wasn't necessary at that point, and did he have to actually also accept the fact that this is what he wanted to do, knowing very well that there could be issues that will come out of this decision that he was making?
I think before coming to that, I also want to jump to the fray about the issue of women in politics, that the fact that we are having few numbers. I have observed over the years that, one, the women themselves do not show interest in politics. Why am I saying that? At my department and Honorable's department, political science, we tend to have the political science students are have more numbers. The department has more numbers than any department at the University of Ghana campus. Yes. And you see a whole lot of women, first degree, but you come to masters,
They're gone.
only few. When I was a master's student, we were 10 students. Out of 800 and something, only 10 showed up for masters. There was no woman.
No.
Yes. And then later, I think 6 students who came after us, no woman. Later, we had 1, 2 here and there. It is interesting to know that ever since I've been a student, since 1994, I've seen only 2 women, 3 as lecturers. 3. Why? Is it that they start, but when they get to the highest level, they back off? It's the same attitude that goes on when they enter into national politics. It tells you that they don't have appetite for politics. If we really want to save this situation, then we must do something different to support them, and they also supporting themselves. Another factor is that when you look at voting, it is based on numbers. Is it not true?
Yeah.
And if women are in majority, one would have expected that any time somebody mount a challenge, a political challenge to contest, and there is a woman, all things being equal, should what? Win. Because women are in majority, they will vote for that person. Yeah. But women tend to vote against themselves. It is a fact.
Doc, is it just women who vote against themselves?
No, I am saying that for men, if men will not do that, I am looking forward to seeing women voting for women. But they will root for what? Others. I don't know what's going on. And then another thing is also that if we want to really deal with this, then we must change some of the rules governing the game. Why is it that political parties cannot develop certain rules that we will allocate number of seats for women to compete?
But Doc, when it comes to even the filing fees, they reduce it drastically for women. Is that not enough? Is that not what they could do?
Not. But if you are not getting the results, it tells you that it's not enough. We must move the gear to another, take the conversation to another level.
So you mean not to allow men to contest?
No, we can have so many things done so that women can really feature prominently.
Okay.
Right. And one of it is what you are saying. Another one could be that, look, this election, this particular constituency, we want to encourage women. So is it wrong to allow, women to compete and encourage them to compete? You can do that. Sometimes the nature of politics is something that they are afraid of. Politics is divisive, it is antagonistic, it is conflictual, and everything, there are a whole lot of negative things about that. But remember, women are very careful people. Yeah. They don't want to be associated with things that will, toss up the whole society, that will create certain discomfort and all that. Sometimes they're afraid to venture. Sometimes it's beyond their imagination. No, I don't want to be part. But I believe that a 1,000,000-mile journey begins with a step. We can help them. My wife, when we started life, he was not interested in politics. And I said, my dear, you'll be interested in politics. He said, no. He's a lawyer, law. I said, I understand that. But with time, the socialization started. today he's more political than my good self. So I believe that when we take this approach, we tackle it from all fronts. Right? As Honorable has said, all the legislations, you know, there's no discrimination. But it tells us that then we must take the conversation and not further, and then do other things to support women. Then I come back to the issue of the question that you posed.
Yeah, the Equitian MP.
You see, rules are there. If you don't want to obey them, there are consequences. And once you are well aware of the consequence and you said, I am ready for it, may it be so, all right? Because we are rational. And if you read the utilitarian law, they say human beings want to minimize pain and maximize our pleasure. So if you want to enjoy pain, then you are a sadist, right? But there are good reasons why people take certain positions and all that. So I was happy that they explained the consequence of his action to him. And he said that, look, I'll move on. I'm sure he wants to die on his own dagger, right? So those ones I have no problem, but that I always caution people that when you are dealing with the law, you must be very careful because the laws are nothing but the will of the expression of the people. What we want it to be is what it is. And that if you want to take another route that will circumvent the process, there is always a sanction awaiting you. So for me, I will not dwell so much on it, but that I was also surprised that a would-be legislator and then you want to trample upon the laws of the land. You want to disregard the rules of the court. Remember, democracy hinges around what? Rule of law. Without it, right? And rule of law has two components: equality before the law and due process. There is nobody who is over and above the law. So whenever the court comes in, your approach has to be different if you really want to stay afloat. And for me, that is how I always get it. But people have their own reason why they do what they want to do. And then we leave them to what? Bear the consequences of their
Because the clerk was very emphatic about it, but then...
Alhaji Yunusa Hussein, let's bring you in here. Once you've been in the House, you have a lot of, knowledge of how the House is. Let's talk about the evolution of Parliament since '93.
Well, in '93, so we had gone through 11 years or so of military rule. People were becoming fed up with military rule.
But sorry, was Parliament operating then?
No, Parliament was not. I mean, when you say a democracy,
it comes with Parliament.
Yeah. You can have a government of a country, but you cannot have a democracy without Parliament.
Okay.
That's why democracy has been defined as a government of the people, for the people, and by the people.
Yeah.
But that's a British definition.
Okay.
Now, so because we were under a military rule, and because I traveled 11 years, there were now some discordant voices. And so in order to assuage the pains and difficulties of Ghanaians, the former president, late President Rawlings, commissioned a group of people to go around and survey, ask a simple question whether the people wanted a return to democracy or not. And so the outcome of that survey was a negative expression of the will of the people. It said that the people were not opposed. They were not opposed. That's what the report said, that the people were not opposed to democracy. So they did not say the people wanted democracy, they were not opposed. I know why it was that, because we were going to transition from, and they didn't, those who went around and did the research did not want to antagonize them. So then, fortunately, Western countries, there was a wind of democracy blowing across Africa. So nobody wanted to be left behind. There were going to be severe sanctions, I mean, if you were left behind. And the Western countries were going to withhold a lot of support. And Ghana was actually going through a lot of difficulties. So it was important to transition to democracy. And so a constitution was written, and that's the GRU norm. All laws of the country must spring from the constitution. and the Constitution recognizes even previous laws because they have to be part of the laws of the country. Now, the date was set. I mean, initially, our democracy was going to be the election of the president, because the president derives his mandate directly from the people and not from parliament. Directly from the people. There's a democracy where parliament will meet like they have met to elect somebody to be president. But our democracy derives its mandate directly from the people. Now, our constitution too is a historical document. So you find Article 78.1. Why is Article 78.1 inserted in our constitution? In the Third Republic, President Liman could not have his budget approved because his own MPs rejected the budget because they thought that those who had not contested elections were most favored by the executive than they who had gone to contest elections to be in parliament.
Okay.
So our constitution takes account of that and inserts that in the constitution. That's where the hybrid system of government derives its authority from, Article 78.1.
Oh, okay.
Now, so we also said, well, because there are two modes of mandates, one a presidential mandate and a parliamentary mandate. So the 1992 Constitution and elections recognize the two mandates. First, have a presidential election with the people. The people must choose a president. Then go back to the people to choose
Members of
parliament because their mandates are different. Now, so the stolen verdict was written after the 1992 Constitution. Elections. Because the New Patriotic Party then thought that because the president is chosen and the executive authority is vested in the president, everybody, if you choose a president, everybody will want to align with the president. And so the election of the MPs becomes a sham. So we were then forced to make amends to the way we conducted elections in Ghana. And we brought the presidential elections the parliamentary elections to be in sync with the presidential elections. And because the election of the president is an entrenched provision. And so we had to move parliament so that we could have elections one day. Evolution. We also were dealing with opaque ballot boxes. So you could not tell what was in the ballot box. Not so. And so we heard of stories of ballot stuffing. And no one ever said that there was stuffing. Even now, you don't have stuffing. No one says, but there's always that allegation of ballot stuffing. And so one way to dispel that notion that ballots were being stuffed was to go for transparent. So when they bring the box, apart from opening the lid, you can even see through the box. And then we were with black and white. I'm talking about the electoral reforms that has consolidated our democracy. Okay. We had a black and white register. First of all, we had a register that didn't contain names. They said that, that was a recipe for rigging. Because after names, you find Araba Tego everywhere in Central Region. And so which Araba Tego are you meaning? So we said they should have a picture. And so in all this, Ghanaians and the executive were prepared to accommodate the reforms. And that's why we are where we are. To be honest with you, there have been tremendous effort to always accommodate. That's why I feel pained when the Electoral Commission, the Elections Management Body, refuses, neglects, or fails to take on board recommendations that will consolidate our democracy.
Right.
So clearly, and so we had the second election. So you see, the first election, when the MPP boycotted, they took part in the second election because their concerns were addressed. And they got 67 or so members of parliament. That 67 members of parliament did not operate to prevent Kufuor from winning the third presidential elections in Ghana. He won. And he won decisively. You understand? Since then, there have been reforms and adding of constituencies. You know, the only thing that didn't happen in this election was that we didn't create more constituencies.
We only added one.
We added one because
Sal.
that one was pending.
Yeah.
It was in the words of Asasare. It was a cardinal sin.
A sin.
so we were only purging ourselves of the cardinal sin. So yes, we have come very far. At a point when I was a member of the EU ACP Joint Parliamentary Assembly, I made a statement that is in Belgium. I made a statement on the floor of the Joint Parliamentary Assembly that it was only Ghana that was having, at the time that I made the statement, 2 arms of government being occupied by women. The Chief Justice, then,
Judge.
and then Bamford Addo.
Speaker of Parliament. Yeah.
2. So women have always failed to exploit opportunities.
We haven't failed. We have not failed. You see,
Anyway.
we come from a deeply patriarchal society, and so the work that we've done up to this point, yes, is a commendable, some will say. But I think the machinations that need to be deeply rooted in our systems for us to actually, leverage, like you say, the opportunities available. We are nowhere near there, Alhaji. But let's move the conversation forward. Doc, I mean, after that historic breakdown, I'm curious to know what key lessons we can draw from each of these various periods in Parliament and our democracy, and really what we should be looking out for. What should we not miss in today's big process that brings a new administration into this country?
If we look at the trajectory, how far we have come, which Honorable has clearly articulated them perfectly here, we have to look at the fact that there are lingering challenges that we need to nip them in the bud. Let me give you an example. We started seeing problems such as ballot snatching. People will grab the ballot box, run away, police will chase them. One would have thought that the state would deal decisively with this. We couldn't solve this problem, and we introduced another problem. Which another problem? The introduction of macho men into electoral processes, where they flex muscles, they attack people, and the story, you and I know it too well for me to recount them. They became nuisance to the electoral process. We didn't end there. We also took the conversation to another level by introducing vigilantes. The political parties developed vigilantes who were protecting their interests at all times, to the extent that they became albatross around our neck. And then this president had to run to Parliament with a bill to proscribe their activities. It didn't end there. We changed the gear, and then we decided to also shoot people at polling stations. That up to date, we have not addressed that issue. And for me, what was a blot on our electoral process was that one would have thought that the leadership of this country, they would talk about it and find the perpetrators and then subject them to what? Justice. Up to date, the people have no justice. It is my hope and prayer that this regime will take up that challenge and then deal with it so that, people live at peace. Because in every society, when there are wrongs, a time should come that you want to right all the wrongs. Look at all the excesses we had with military regimes and all that. The National Reconciliation created that platform. If you read Professor Kofi Kumado's work, Forgive Us Our Trespasses, that article, beautiful one, that the best way that we can forgive people who have sinned against individuals and the state is what? Through the National Reconciliation. Fast forward, you saw this election. You saw people mass up at collating centers, people destroying things and all that. This is something that I expect that this state will look at it and address it head on. But I have seen something from where I sit that any time we are going for elections, we are worried about problems that confront us. But immediately after elections, we go back to sleep and we don't think about this at all. It's a lesson we need to learn and hard. Another thing that Another useful lesson that we need to learn is that we have come this far in terms of our democratic experiment. And it's not through an easy process. People have lost their lives. People have lost their means of livelihoods. And then we destroy the state and all that. Today, we have a democracy. We need to jealously guard against this process so that we don't have what? Reversal. What you are seeing in the sub-region, where there is instability and all that, there is nothing but what? Democratic reversals. When people feel that democracy is not providing the dividends, right, that they expect, that they want to go to the old order, which you and I don't want. And that, the lesson here we need to learn is that the main enemy to democracy is poverty. Let us deal with what? Poverty. And how do you deal with poverty? You create what? An enabling economic environment that people will have means of livelihood, that people can fend for themselves. That is the first port of call that we need to what? Address our minds to. Not only that, we need to also continue to drum the ethos, the tenets of democracy into the heads of people. That yes, even though we agree that democracy has its own challenges, but it is better than military regime. I have seen military regimes, at least 2. And I saw it has remained indelible in my mind. Why am I saying this?
Doc, I don't cut you.
Yeah.
But if you look at what is happening in Guinea, in Burkina Faso recently, and you bring up this argument of what you saw in the past of the military regime, if the young people of today compare the two, what you saw, we didn't see it. But we are seeing something in Guinea and Burkina Faso and even Mali that is, people say, is inspiring a certain level of hope. Can we still hold this argument to say democracy is better than the military regime that we're seeing today in other countries?
Yeah, people deceive themselves into believing that soldiers have the magic wand to turn things around for them. I urge those people to read Odatule's work and read Professor Makwekwe's chapter in Ghana, The Search for Democracy. There is a theory, also, there are a number of theories that explain military adventurism in politics. One of it is the civilian regime performance theory. The military deceive themselves into believing that they are those who have what it takes to deal with cracks in society. When there are corruption, there are weaknesses, political decay. They said they have what it takes to deal with it. And we have realized that over the years, it's not true. It's just robbing Peter to pay Paul. In the beginning, they will pretend to be doing something for you. At a point in time, you can't hold them to tax. I was a little boy in my hometown, Ekropong, where General Ekufu, where he came from. My home is just the road that separates my house from his father's house, all right? And from my home, it's just 400 meters from the IGP then, Mr. Ernest Akon, home. And they were looking for these people. My home was turned toward a theater. They were looking for them to kill them. Eventually, they got General Ekufu, finished him. And Akon bolted away, left this country. And as a young boy, growing up, the things that I saw with regard to military brutalities and all that, and up to date has remained indelible in my mind. And then I lived through what the PNDC in 1981, and I saw brutalities, all right? And I also, what worsened my case is that I went to Legon and I studied political science with Honorable. And we had a teacher, Michael Kwe, teaching us all the military in Ghanaian politics, right? So there are a whole lot of bitter lessons we have learned that you don't need to learn it for you to be able to experience what we experienced before. But the good news is that there are paths that we can chart that will take us off this course and create a better society for ourselves, right? The good thing about democracy is that if a government is misbehaving, we only wait. And you saw what happened. You were talking to this government, they will not listen. Arrogance of power, all right, and abuse of power, high levels of corruption, all advice or wise counsel fell on deaf ears. Ghanaians were quiet, only to wait for what? December 7th. And the story is too clear for me to recount here. So this parliament that we've got, or this democracy will work if we don't have institutions. And one of the big institutions in democracy is the legislature, that you and I must support them and then also help in building their capacity. And I'm happy that academics, think tanks, they are doing a lot to support the work of Parliament. Honorable can attest to this fact. Sometimes they need resource person to come and help them. They get them from the think tank, the universities, and all that. The speakers' breakfast program. They invite giant scholars to come and share perspectives and all that. This is a way to build them. It is true that sometimes they cross the line, but we should also handle it with a certain level of restriction. We should restrict ourselves not to destroy the parliament that we have. Okay. And then help them to build capacity. Of course, when they cross the line, we'll criticize them. And they also must take them in their strides, because criticisms are nothing but the oils that grease the wheels of governance, without which it grinds to a halt. So we need all hands on deck to support the work of Parliament. Okay. Because one of the casualties of military rule is that as soon as there is the revolution, they kick Parliament. Parliament is abolished, and people are thrown into jail. And when you don't have Parliament, Master, you are in under the state of nature, where according to Hobbes, life is nasty, brutish, and short.
Okay.
Right.
I want to find out from Alhaji, looking at the trajectory and what we have seen so far in terms of our parliaments, what we have right now is a superior majority for the NDC. Of course, there are 4 other candidates that are also forming a part of it. How is this going to affect the work of the opposition moving into the 9th parliament?
So everybody knows that the opposition is going to be a weak opposition.
Mm-hmm. How
So they will
weak
need,
an opposition?
because if they work out, it will have no impact on Parliament.
Great. No, I don't mean great as just great, but for the clarity.
So the quorum will be met at all times.
Yeah.
So no one can prevent Parliament from performing its business. But that imposes an invidious responsibility on the Speaker to ensure that he manages Parliament in such a way that we don't have that. But you see, in listening to the distinguished professor of political science, I thought I should add a few to that. We are slipping down the road because of monetization of politics.
Hugely.
And so part of the reasons why you stay out is that you are not able to gather the resources to be able to go to Parliament. Part of why we have impunity is that there is no political accountability when the government in power is still in office. So they use state resources in pursuing personal agendas. And when you use state resources in pursuing personal agenda, you make everybody poor. Because the state resources would have built a school, would have built a hospital, would have built roads, would have ensured that students are fed 3 times or 2 times a day. Someone is converting that for his personal gain, and no one is holding. So impunity is probably what is dragging us backwards. Then you have the electoral system itself. How can you have an electoral system that makes an electoral commissioner almost a perpetual entity? Until that electoral commissioner gets to 70 years, you can't remove, unless there are stated breaches or acts of incompetence, you can't. No, President Kufuor said it, and I agree with him, that you must limit the term of an electoral commissioner. You must do it in such a way that the term of the electoral commissioner ends not with the government that appoints the electoral commissioner, but somebody else, so that they can rotate, and then the confidence and trust of the people in that commission can then come back. Why is it that the president can just appoint an electoral commissioner? Is the electoral commission not a public office? So why is that in drafting the constitution we excluded the election of the appointment of an electoral commission from the Public Services Commission? Why? Why don't you subject it to competitive tendering or what if you want applications? So the use of military, because government is in power, government is prone to using the military or security agencies in holding people into doing things that clearly offend the electoral cycle. And that undermines democracy. That undermines democracy. The new liberal system that we are practicing, a hybrid system. You go to parliament, I was in parliament, and then you will find a government bring a policy. And that policy is obnoxious. That policy is bad. But you will find members of parliament. And members of parliament, your duty is to hold, because you are the holders of the purse. And when you give the money to the executive, you want to see how the executive has spent the money. So you have supervisory jurisdiction over the executive. But you find members of parliament see nothing.
I think that the one that hurts Ghanaians most is that ally that allows mining in our forest reserves. Like, what happened in Parliament?
So that was a policy.
But
so that was a policy. And why did we just close our eyes? So that hybrid system.
But you've never been able to hold your own parties accountable. So as you see now,
that hybrid system is
not be able to hold
then the political parties act itself ought to be amended. How come that when somebody commits an electoral offense, you need permission from the Attorney General to be able to? You need a fiat. How? He committed an offense. But that particular offense, because it's an electoral offense, you need the fiat of the Attorney General. Why? So you see, then you have the bastardization of bureaucracy. Today, everybody is saying that, well, you have to sweep the state institutions. You have to ensure that you peg the state institutions. Why are we saying that? But long ago, in the Napoleonic era, where bureaucracies were tied to families and your allegiance and loyalties to the leader. I mean, they realized that it wasn't delivering anything for France. So they reformed it. And it is only on merit. And then your allegiance is not to a party, but to the state. Why? How come?
Our time has run out now, but I do want to give the last one.
The last one. You talk about Niger. You talk about Guinea. Okay. So many years ago at the political science department, I read a book. I can't remember the author of the book. It says charismatic leaders emerge only when there are weak institutions. That's when they emerge. Right. So when you see somebody emerge, it's because there are weak institutions in the country.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Elijah. Wow. You have the final word. Yeah. But I do want to ask, though, is this sustainable? This our approach to wait 4 years, whether you're misleading us or just wait till we go to the polls and vote you out, looking at what's happening all around us. Is it sustainable?
If you don't want this, then you have to go by the Westminster system, where if a government is a non-performing government, it suffers what? A vote of no confidence. And then you go for election, and whatever happens, happens. Ghana experienced that in 1969. And we did also experience in 1979 the presidential. And we have what? Argument for and against them, out of which we decided that we want to have what? The hybrid. Today, people are calling for even the hybrid. They said, let's take away that provision in the Constitution which says that pick majority of your ministers from Parliament. Once you want to take that one, you are back to what? Presidential system of government. Yes. So is that what we want? If you look at that conversation, you realize that there are advantages with it. If you go to America, they have what we call the log rolling, where as soon as you elect people to Parliament, they forget about the political party. They think about the state. And then they fight for the state and all that. But there are also what? Problems associated with that. We have weighed all this. So I don't know which direction Ghanaians want to go. We need to be very careful about it. Because also, if you look at this hybrid system, there are features that are what? Parliamentary in nature. And there are features that are presidential and it's tilted towards more of a presidential system. Because under the presidential system, the executive is elected into office for a fixed tenure, 4 years. You have somebody who doubles as a head of state and head of government. You have also, you need to have people who will be elected, who will be ministers outside Parliament. If that is what you want to do, then you are in the realm of presidential system. So I want Ghanaians to be clear in their mind, what is it that they want? But we can do that if we read the Constitutional Committee experts, their report as to why they adopted what? The hybrid system. I think that will show us the way.
There's a lot of work to be done, clearly.
But thank you so much. It's been an insightful conversation. I, for one, have learned a lot about the history or the evolution of our parliament. But thank you so much, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's head of the Center of European Studies at the University of Ghana, and we also have Alhaji Inusa Hussaini, former Member of Parliament. But KMJ and Samuel Kojo Brace, you have the final word.
Yeah, we have a long day. I'm sure that this is going to be what every Ghanaian will be looking out for. In fact, right after the elections, we said that we're waiting for the 7th of December, 7th of January, and obviously it's here for all of us to see. So we're going to be here to bring you all the updates on that. I mean, the election headquarters always does it even better than any other person. So just stay with us.
We have a 360 coverage of the event that is happening. We have men all over
on the ground.
We have the men.
We have the men.
So you will get to see what you won't see anywhere else. So you have to stay here on the Joy News channel as we bring you that 360 coverage of the event. And it's been an honor listening to Dr. Asante and Honorable Inusa Hussaini. We would love to have you again.
Yes.
Absolutely.